Hello, guys and gals, me, Mutahar, and I'm positive about the end of the world. You know, if the bombs dropped today and the world looked like the Fallout TV show on Amazon, I think I'd live pretty comfortably. Not really, I'd be dead within 40 minutes. But that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you might have heard that Fallout's gotten a television show, and I had literally no my expectations were at the ground floor. Now, I'm a Fallout fan, all right? Back in the day, back in the Xbox 360 days when I was a much younger person, no facial hair looked normal, you know, I was a much happier, thinner guy. I used to play Fallout 3 all the time. Fallout 3 on the Xbox 360 was my jam. You know, for some people, they think about the games that defined a generation for them. For me, it was Fallout. And of course, to this day, I still play Fallout 3, and I still play Fallout New Vegas. And these are the Ultimate Editions, all the DLC banger titles. Do not play them on the PlayStation 3. If you value your sanity, never play a Bethesda game on the PlayStation device. You know why? It's because Bethesda games are already buggy as hell anyways, but on the PlayStation, bro, it's like ripping testicles. Anyways, though, it's not about performance reviews on the PlayStation, okay? We all know what that generation was like. That said, though, ladies and gentlemen, Fallout as a TV show has come out, and it's absolutely been a banger, and I feel like everyone has basically fallen in love with it, at least the people that I talk to. Now, there's a bit of controversy, but I want to compare this to other shows in the video gaming sphere. For instance, Resident Evil as a TV show from Netflix was an abortion, okay? It was actually a fucking abortion on television. Now, I watched that entire dung pile, and I even made a video talking about why I didn't like that, you know, TV show, because it wasn't Resident Evil. It was a bastardized version of injecting Resident Evil lore. It was a bad show, okay? It had its funny moments, okay? We won't forget the Zootopia line. Hell, I won't even forget the badass prison shoot 'em up scene, okay? That was the one good part about the show. It was the one time where I was soy jacking a little bit, all right? But it was a bad show. The other show that is kind of, mind-numbingly terrible, in my opinion, is the Halo television show, okay? These are shows made by people that really don't care about the actual source material, okay? It's just a bunch of, like, out-of-touch Hollywood types that basically say, all right, we got a great IP here, let's just actually make a show out of it, okay? Hey, let's make the Halo TV show. Hey, man, let's show Master Chief's ass for 5 hours. Hey, the show's more like Mass Effect, I guess, instead of Halo. Like, at that point, you know, the general, you know, people that the show is kind of made for are going to be pissed off. Now, the Fallout show is something that I feel touches upon this perfectly. Now, if you played Fallout, you know that the game, the style of it is kind of like this. The world is in its 50s. You know, the world had a divergence. It's like this 1950s stylized universe that had nuclear bombs drop. And society basically went down into, like, you know, the Bronze Age and slowly built itself back up in, like, the course of hundreds of years. And since then, the world has become far different than what it was like before the nukes fell. You've got multiple factions, you've got raiders, you've got fucked up shit everywhere in this veneer of 1950s America. And that's basically what Fallout as a series is kind of about. That's what Fallout, you know, at least if you had to explain it really quickly to somebody, that's what you're hitting up with. Now, the TV show, I finished all the episodes of it so far, and I will say that it nails the aesthetics down perfectly. To give you an idea, the show follows 3 main characters. It's got Lucy, who is a vault dweller, like she's grown up in a vault, and her view of the world is very different than people who live above the vault, because she's never seen post-apocalyptic America. She spent her entire life trying to breed and basically have a family that can one day colonize the wasteland above, all right? And as soon as she starts witnessing how messed up things are, okay, where cannibalism is rife, raiders are rife, human beings don't trust each other, she herself doesn't really like the surface all that well. But her motivation is to find, like, her dad, which kind of gives me these Fallout 3 vibes, but, you know, we'll touch upon that in a bit. The second main character is this dude named Maximus, who's like a Brotherhood of Steel pawn. He's like a Brotherhood of Steel dick washer, okay? So if you don't know the Brotherhood of Steel, they're like the most they're kind of the most based faction in the Fallout universe. Human beings above all, keep all pre-war technology away from the scum. Everybody in the wasteland is scum. That's effectively what the Brotherhood of Steel kind of is if you had to Eli 5 them. And they're the ones that are in that typical power armor that you see in, like, Fallout media all the time, if you're, like, cursory glancing it from afar. So he becomes, like, sort of a Brotherhood of Steel knight in the power armor, you know, but there's a whole way in how he becomes that I won't spoil. And the third main character is the Ghoul. Now, the ghoul is interesting because in the Fallout universe, ghouls are like these creatures that effectively have near infinite lifespans because of the radiation that they live underneath. It's people that look like, rotted pieces of meat walking around, but in reality, they have like infinite lifespans, and they're just another group of people, another life form that is brewed in post-apocalyptic mutated America. So anyways, he's the only character that is alive since the bombs fell, okay? Like, he actually witnessed the Great War that lasted 2 hours and finally comes out of, retirement in this world that is set very late into the Fallout universe. Now, according to the Fallout mythos, and I actually looked into the timeline for it, there's a few people that were discussing this, and according to the current timeline, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, the way that this takes place is in Fallout universe, the bombs fell in the year 2077. So Fallout 76 takes place in 2102. Fallout 1 takes place in 2161. Fallout 2 takes place 2241. 3 comes after, then New Vegas, then 4, and then the TV show is set literally over a decade, or at least, around a decade after Fallout 4. So that's kind of what the actual idea is, and Bethesda is very involved in it. Todd Howard is very involved into the show, which is kind of weird because the show runs above 20 frames per second and no fucking character is ragdolling around, so I was like a little weird, so to speak. But yeah, Bethesda is very involved, and you can really tell with this show because as you watch it, there's a lot of Easter eggs in it where you kind of go, oh, wowie, that's Fallout right there. The vaults look like vaults. The characters are all using their stim packs. There are actual products that you can find that they don't even point at, which if you're like an actual Fallout player, you'll like notice it in the corner of your eye and be like, oh shit, those are some, that's some squirrel on a stick right there, pal. Or that's from Fallout 3. That's from New Vegas. So it's got the aesthetic pretty much nailed down. Now, because this is a television show and not a video game, the thing about Fallout games is they take place, like you can put hundreds of hours into each title, into each Fallout game. So the thing about it is this is a show that is an hour-long episode for each show. And there's like, 8 or 9 of these episodes. And so they're designed for not the average Fallout person. They're designed to incorporate everyone who's on Amazon to jump in and watch the show. So I think from that perspective, out of all of the stuff that the show provides, I think they do a pretty good job of nailing down the important beats of what the Fallout universe is. Enough so that Season 2 and Season 3 can kind of go buck wild and go further into the lore than before. They go over some of these factions, like the humans, the ghouls, the Brotherhood of Steel. They even mention like the New California Republic to an extent, even though that's not really crazily touched upon. They're going to leave that, from what I understand, mostly for Season 2. You've got, obviously, Vault-Tec. You're not going to have, all these crazy factions that were mentioned across the universe in one season, obviously. But I think what they nailed down is enough for, if like my mom and dad sat down to watch it, they could understand the world of Fallout, right? There are even moments where, like, the show kind of touches upon the world before the nukes fell, but they only do it enough to the point where it's not overbearing. That was one of the things that I was worried about watching this. I'm like, please don't have like an entire episode or two dedicated to like talking to the world before the nukes fell. Like, that's not really all that important. If you need to know what led up to the world of Fallout being Fallout, it was back in the, before war days when the United States and the Chinese government were pretty much going at it with each other for resources. At the end of the war, the US pretty much was fighting on mainland China and winning, and the Chinese launched a nuclear retaliatory strike as sort of like a Hail Mary, like a fuck you, we're ending the world. And within 2 hours, or within a few minutes in that moment, the United States responded, and for like 2 hours, nukes were just being exchanged, and the world and all of human history collapsed right there. There are moments where the ghoul, you see him as, the character before the nukes fell, and he kind of touches upon sort of the politics, if you will, of Vault-Tec and how, like, there's a conspiracy of Vault-Tec pretty much leading to the end of the world being a thing, because for them, it's just big business, right? They were in the business of selling defense, vaults, and the end of the world. It was all just a product. So there's moments where the show touches upon stuff like that, and it does a pretty good job of not being too preachy or overbearing and kind of explaining the Fallout universe to like the first time normie. Now, a bit of the controversy that's sort of come out here is a few people feel that they have been basically shitting on New Vegas. So if you don't know, there's a bit of a conspiracy that Todd Howard fucking hates New Vegas when that's actually not even the truth. According to an interview from back in the day when they were talking to him about Fallout New Vegas 2, he literally says, nothing set in stone, but New Vegas was great, and having another go at it certainly makes an awful lot of sense. So right then, fingers crossed, extra radiation-born ones too, if you got them. So the understanding is, Todd Howard, obviously Fallout games, when they were being developed, Fallout games, the first two Fallout games were isometric role-playing titles. They were not made by Bethesda. Bethesda came in with the franchise on Fallout 3. Then when New Vegas was coming out, it was handed over to Obsidian Entertainment, and half of those guys, from my understanding, were the people that made the first two games, and the other half were the guys who make the Wasteland franchise, which is still going on to this day. And, after Fallout New Vegas was Fallout 4 and 76, which were Bethesda's. And of course, there's controversy around those games as to being good Fallout titles. But I like to think that Fallout as a franchise, I've never been unentertained by it. I've always found these to be fun experiences. And Fallout games kind of inspire that creepypasta love that started my channel. Because, if you ever played Fallout 3, without having any understanding of the franchise, you'll walk into like all these creepy vaults and places and have like these amazing surreal horror experiences. And I think a lot of this stuff culminates into why these games are so special and why the TV show is special too, because it's one show where, again, I can understand that obviously, they're not going to hit upon every note for every gamer out there because there's just so much lore in this franchise. But what they've provided is, I think, good enough to appease both the long-term fans of the franchise, even the casual ones, and of course the general person that probably clicked on the show because they thought it looked cool and they had no idea what Fallout was. So yeah, it nails down the vibe really well. A bit of the retconning, to go back to the New Vegas point, was something around like Shady Sands. So there was this chalkboard scene in the show which showcased the fall of something known as Shady Sands, which was the first New California Republic capital. And again, for people who are really diving deep into this, people thought that this was maybe like Todd Howard and like Bethesda shitting on the work of Obsidian, when it was actually the furthest thing from the case. Apparently, timeline-wise, it doesn't actually retcon this city or the NCR or anything in New Vegas. In fact, if you watch the show, towards the end of it, New Vegas basically becomes the actual like season 2 of the show. If there is going to be a season 2, they're definitely going to set it in Las Vegas and New Vegas, and they're not going to set it in the capital Wasteland or Boston, which was primarily the work of Bethesda. So there is a lot of homage and there is a lot of respect being paid to like the Fallout franchise. And this conspiracy theory of like Todd Howard disliking New Vegas, listen boys, the only reason we got New Vegas is because Daddy Howard allowed it to happen, okay? So let's just give Todd a little bit of relaxation there. I don't think there's any like ill will because New Vegas was a much better received game than Fallout 3. At the end of the day, they're both amazing games, and this conspiracy is just, in my opinion, it's still a conspiracy. One of the things I question too is Vault-Tec as a company constantly is accused or is put in the conspiracy of like them wanting to profit from the end of the world. I can only imagine like that probably needs more of an explanation. How is a company supposed to profit and skyrocket its stock value if the fucking world is gone, okay? Who are you trying to impress? The raiders and savages and cannibals? I don't understand. That part of the show needs a little bit more explanation. I don't know where they were going with the whole Vault-Tec conspiracy now that I'm really putting it in my head. But it is Fallout, and I don't think the lore was ever really the biggest part of it, or at least the larger standing lore, if you will. I think in most cases, you're going to sit down and enjoy what they've done with the show. So yeah, for the first time, I've actually really seen a video game adaptation of a show done really well, and it wasn't insulting and infuriating like Halo was, like Resident Evil was. And after watching Fallout, and I don't do much TV review on my channel. I don't even watch that much TV, if you can ascertain. I just watch a few shows that pique my interest, and Fallout was one of those shows where, given my history with the franchise, I had to have watched it. I had to give it a chance. And I'm proud to say that I did not waste any of my time. So yeah, I'm excited for season 2. And yeah, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Just like if you dislike it, I am out.